It is an incredible evening, I should say, in Goochland, Virginia, outside Richmond. Here I am coming at you, the Golf Intervention Podcast. Welcome back in. I'm here with my co-host, Rob Fales. I'm so excited to be on with you tonight. Tonight is all about you, the listener. That's right. We're going to answer some listener questions, and I love doing this, Rob. We've done one other. Actually, you and I did. Fun. We did some practice listener question episodes, to be fair, in the past, which have not been released, but they were good practice for us. And in the early days of the Golf Intervention. And I'm excited to be on with you tonight. What's going on out there in Charlottesville? Anything exciting?
Nothing too exciting. No. What are we drinking tonight? Anything?
I just, for me, I won't want to get into too deeply, but I drink water. That's me right now.
Yep.
I'm in a very
fantastic.
Dry moment in my life right now, which we all have to go through these periods of like health and awareness. I'm 45 years old, so I'm very stringent upon what I'm doing. It's just a limited time period, but I like to do that. So nice. I'm drinking water. How about you? I see you're drinking something maybe a little bit more fun over there.
We got a Brian Bailey special here. This is Traveler.
Bourbon.
Gifted this a couple days ago.
And Traveler is a Kentucky. Tell me what is that?
Oh, it's actually, I'm not sure. I don't think it's actually a bourbon. I think it's just a whiskey.
Okay.
Apparently not all whiskey is bourbon.
Bourbon has to have a
bourbon is whiskey.
Correct. So whiskey is a general term.
I'm a newbie when it comes to
whiskey is a general term, like Scotch is a whiskey, right? Yeah. So bourbon's a whiskey. It depends on where it is. There's Canadians. There's rye. There's all kinds of stuff. So, but that one looks like a bourbon to me, just color wise. Usually bourbon's made out of corn, and it looks bourbony to me. So anyway, to the real stuff now, which is the listener questions. So you put a post out on Instagram, ask us some questions. We pulled a few from there. So thank you to those who submitted. I do not have who submitted the questions. I just have questions. So I'm pretty excited about the questions that we got. And so let's get in. Let's just jump right in.
Me too. Let's do it.
So first question is, and I think what I'll do is I'll ask the question. I'll provide a little context around what the question means, so all listeners kind of understand what it means. And then I'll have you answer first. So, first question is, what are your thoughts on the quote unquote clock system for wedges? Okay, so this kind of goes back to I think training wedge distances with swinging your. I don't even know if it's the arm. So I'm kind of giving away my thoughts on the clock system. Is it your arms? Is it your hands at certain times on the clock? Is it the club head? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not a clock system guy, but I do have a system. It's just not that. I watch Bryson a little bit on Instagram or on YouTube, and he definitely says like, okay, I'm gonna swing this one to 10:30. I don't even know what that means. I've got an Apple Watch, man. I don't look at the faces on the watch. So, I guess if that visual is good. But essentially this, and I was thinking about this, I had this conversation the other day, why this is such a key skill. So let's say I'm somebody that hits my pitching wedge 120 yards, okay? Full swing, 120.
Yes.
Your driver, if you hit a good drive, I'm going to guess it's 240, 250. I mean, somewhere, maybe a little further, but I'm just giving general numbers, right? So here I am as this player, and I've got a pitching wedge that goes 120, right? Then I go pitching wedge, 9 iron, 8 iron, 7 iron, 6 iron, 5 iron, 5 hybrid or something, some type of fairway wood driver. And all those clubs cover 120 yards in my bag, right? From 240 to 120. Then I've got pitching wedge, gap wedge, lob wedge, maybe 3 or 4 clubs, really 3 clubs that go under 120, right? All the way to the hole, right? So I might have 11 that go more than 120, so 120 yards, and I got 3 that go the short 120. So I can't take a full swing from 20 yards with a club. I don't have an 84-degree wedge, right? So I've got to learn some system, right? We break the system down into short game, which you and I sort of describe as a 40-yard and in type of shot, right? And then some type of in-between wedge system. So for you, Rob Fales, that in-betweeny wedge system, is it a clock system? Like, tell me what you're working with players on.
Yeah. So there's a reason why the idea of the clock system has persisted for as long as it has. It's because it can work depending on how you interpret it and how the person goes out and actually applies it. So we want to start off with saying, hey, if you're already using the clock system and you enjoy it and it's been beneficial for you, keep doing what you're doing. Now, if I had a golfer who, it's so interesting, I got this question because I literally had 2 clients today came to me with this exact question of like, hey, I'm pretty good inside 40, and then once I get out to 80 or a little bit past 80, I'm pretty good because I'm almost making a full swing, but I really need to figure out what to do between 40 and 80, right? So that's really the area that we're talking about. And if you think about how many different, different reference points you would need to have or could have, you could have a 40, a 50, a 60, a 70, right? So that'd be 4 different swings, 4 different places on the clock. And that becomes really, really difficult to decipher in the context of emotion. Is that how much different is a 9 versus a 10-30, right? So you've got to know that first. Are you doing a 10-yard increment? Are you doing a 15-yard increment? What I actually do is I just give golfers really just a 60-yard reference. And I like to use 60 because, pretty simple, it's halfway between 40 and 80. And it gives them just a very, very general reference point of, hey, if the handle of the club, and I typically use the handle for this, not the club head, but if the handle moves from about this far to this far, then I'm generally speaking going to get something around 60. And again, putting that into context, it's not that they're just moving the club to a certain spot. I think that's a big issue that a lot of people run into when they try to do reference point training, is that they end up changing the rhythm of the swing in an effort to hit a certain position. I think it's important to understand that we're just putting in a beat or an impulse of energy into the club, and we're allowing that energy to then migrate into momentum and then end up, swinging into and through a certain position, right? So we gave the example of, let's say your backswing takes 3 syllables of time, right? So your backswing takes the same amount of time it would say that it would take to say the word Virginia, right? Well, you're only really putting in work or energy into the club during the first syllable or the ver part of Virginia, right? During the gin, right? The club is starting to pick up some speed, therefore you're not putting as much into the club, right? And then the right? The club is actually kind of starting to slow down and then reach kind of a peak where it's kind of just settling, almost like think about a person on a swing set, right? It's getting up to speed and then it's gradually kind of slowing down to a certain point and then it starts to gradually speed up again, right? So it's important that we understand that it has to happen in that context if it's going to work, because as soon as we start guiding and manipulating and starting to place the club into a certain spot, now the rhythm gets messed up more often than not. And now we might be hitting our spots, but now we're seeing a different energy level, time in and time out, into impact. And then things like low point, club face start to get compromised as well. So it's one of those where it would be nice if we could parse it out and say, okay, this is every single spot on the clock that I'm hitting. And like I said, some people do it really well. So we don't want to say that it doesn't work, period, because it definitely can. But if taken too literally, it can, in many ways, rob Peter to pay Paul. So again, I like using just a very general 60-yard reference point, maybe with a 58, maybe with a 54, just so golfers maybe have 2 different kind of launch angles, land angle, spin characteristics to get to that 60, and then really train touch and feel to fill in those gaps as best they can without changing the rhythm too much.
I just saw a clip the other day of Tiger Woods talking about the clock system. Did you see it? He goes, I've never done that. He goes, I don't know what that means. He goes, I just take my hands shorter or longer. That's basically what he was saying. So, what I appreciate about how you teach, I think, Robbie, is a lot of times you start with rhythm of it. You're trying to get a rhythm, right?
Yes.
I would say at times I know I can be a little mechanical with my motions and then try to build in the timing. I think you kind of go back and forth. So I think I do this in a little bit of an old school matrix way. I don't know if this started with David Pels or kind of whatever. But essentially it's like I take I just start writing it on a piece of paper for my students. And by the way, I get tremendous feedback in the long term about this quote unquote system because it works. And I'll tell you why in a second. So essentially we just take their clubs and we say, okay, what's the full swing distance with your however many wedges you use? Let's say it's 4, it's 3. Pitching wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, lob wedge, right? Some people only have 2, some people have 3. So you're just making a matrix here. So we go full swing. Then we practice something called a half a swing. So half a swing to me is basically your left arm or your lead arm getting parallel to the ground on the backswing. Now I know that's finding a position, but we definitely train this with feedback with the TrackMan and the video, and we're practicing this and we're rehearsing it. So then I figure out where half is, and I get all the data there. So it's like, maybe your pitching wedge full is 120 and your pitching wedge half is 90. I don't know, I'm making this up, right? Then we find 3/4, which to me is just essentially halfway between. It's a field. It's like, okay, it's halfway between half and full. And for everyone that's different, right? I don't take I think when most people see me swing, they'd say, oh, he takes a three-quarter swing, right? So my full swing is 3/4, so my 3/4 is 3/4 of a full swing, essentially, right? And so then we just kind of make a matrix, right? Now I've got all these yardages for them. So it's 4 clubs, 3 swings, 12 yardages. Okay. My friend Maggie, who just finished, I think, top 20, definitely finished top 20 in the senior LPGA championship, former 3-time winner in the LPGA. Sometimes she'll come in and check these yardages. I help. She carries this in her, and she's done this for 30 years, right? She carries it in her yardage book. She has this matrix. She used to just put the numbers, her distances on her shaft. She'd put a little piece of tape and write it, but they've, again, in the wisdom of the USGA, they've outlawed that for some reason. So everything gets outlawed. Golf's getting too easy if you put your yardages on your shaft, ma'am. So anyway, so now she just has in her yardage book. She's got the matrix. And then she's very good because, obviously, phenomenal player, top 20 senior female in the world, right? She'll have, if she grips down a certain amount on each club and makes that swing, then it takes out X yardage for her. And she has she can hit wedge targets unbelievable, right? So, and then she practices that on launch monitors, right? So she goes in, she has access to a GC Quad launch monitor, which is, a camera-based monitor, pick it up, and she practices it, and she practices it and practices it. Now, she's an elite golfer, literally one of the best in the world. For a level 1 golfer, we're just trying to hit the ball solid. We're probably not working tons on the wedge matrix. Level 2 golfer is probably where we start to introduce this. Level 3 golfer should be pretty darn good at controlling it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when I get that into the level 2 golfer, I'll tell you what I think it does for them. It gives them confidence that they're about to hit the shot where they want to hit it. Right? They can get over the ball. It's a little bit like how aim point is, like Mark Sweeney was pointing out. If I just think I have the right answer, man, I can calm down and try to hit a good shot.
Yeah,
right? And that's the
definitely.
Same thing here. If I say, okay, 75 yards for you is 3/4 of a sand wedge, okay? And you just get over the ball convinced that's about to happen, you've hit half the battle, right? Or maybe 3/4 of the battle. So to me, it is a little mechanical. I do it personally, and I practice it. If I'm preparing to play a tournament, I'm going to practice my matrix. I'm going to practice and work on it. It is a positional base, but there's a rhythm, obviously, to it as well, because that's part of it. So I'm not saying that's not part of it. But so it's not a clock system necessarily, but it's kind of a similar idea. But that's a great question. So again, kind of to summarize, you have short game. And a lot of people will call inside 40 yards kind of finesse short game, which I kind of like that term.
Yes.
Feel short game. It's like,
me too.
I'm not measuring 32 yards to hit a shot. Nick Faldo did that, I think. But we're not doing that. What we're doing is we're playing that by feel or by finesse. Once you get outside of that range, like you were saying, 40 and out for most people, it could be 30 and out for, if you don't hit the ball super far. Now you're playing in a more measured way, all the way up to that full swing pitching wedge.
Yep.
And so, yeah, systems are good for that, I think. I think that's a skill set that I know I work with my better players on, actually kind of a tremendous amount. It's just something we work on constantly. So I love that question. All right, question number 2, Rob Fails. This one may get really interesting. Oh, I'm going to see how this question goes. Whew, take a deep breath. You ready? What training aids do you all endorse or recommend? Now, we have yet to endorse or recommend one through 19 episodes, right? And maybe there's a reason for that. So I'll let you take. Do you want to take it first? You want me to answer it first? Why don't you take it first, Rob?
I went first last time. So
okay.
You go first.
Training aids. Whew, this is a tough one. Okay. So I guess it depends on how you define training aid a little bit, right? Like,
is it a learning aid or a training aid?
Is it a learning aid? Is it a training aid? So here's the distinction for me. If I can use something that provides a level of feedback to the golfer in their practice in a way that we maybe couldn't get access to in a higher tech way, I'm usually for it. So training aids that I might use for feedback, things like alignment sticks, right? I might use that at times. Not for aim usually, by the way, so that's an interesting one. We won't go there right now. I might use an alignment stick like to get them visualizing hitting a shot shape, right? Like I'll put it in front and say, hey, I want you to hit it to the right and draw it, or I want you to hit it to the left and fade it. I'll use a thing called a smash bag. I do like a smash bag, an impact bag or a smash bag, which is just like, I don't know, it's about the size of 2 basketballs put together, and you stuff it with bath towels. And then you can kind of put it in places where, like if you were to make your swing come over the top, you might hit it or something like that. It's just a little bit of a visual thing. Anything that's going to force your body or your club to do things, I'm just simply not interested in. I don't think any learning science supports that. So I would say in lessons with me, what's probably stylistically true, when people come and watch me teach, which young pros out there, if you want to come watch me teach, just come. Just send me a text. Or send me an email on the thing. We'll have you come and watch. I don't typically touch people with my hands very much, and I don't use very many training aids. I don't. And that's just been my style for a long time. Like, I learned a long, long time ago from Michael Hebron, who talked a lot about this in the past about training aids. And so I don't do a ton of it. And there's just reasons for that I think are important to my philosophy as instructor. I don't lay my hands on people or move their clubs around a lot. I don't do that either. I'm not going to force things. Like I want them to be able to create that feel and sensation on their own most of the time if they can. So, yeah, I don't use a ton of training aids, and definitely not ones that are going to force things to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Mainly just for feedback. Training aids are kind of like that snake oil in a way, like a lot of them. Not all, by the way, but a lot. Mm-hmm. They're just like, if you swing this thing, you're going to drop 10 shots. Like, if you see that infomercial style advertisement, you just have to know it's not real. And stop buying them. just stop buying them because they're probably not going to help you. I don't know, maybe. But there are good training aids. Most of the time they're not super helpful. There was one more point I was going to make, but I'm lapsing on it right now. But yeah, so I think that trying to creating a learning environment that is a lot like how we play or how we practice, right? Yeah. Is what I'm always after. So having a bunch of things all around, unless they're just giving some feedback for a few swings, is not really what I'm interested. So I don't do you think I answered that coherently? I'm trying to be as politically correct there as I can, because I do think there are some good training aids. Another one that I do use, I will say this, I do use this from time to time, is from Orange Whip. I actually do like...
stole my thunder.
I'm sorry about that. I do use the Orange Whip trainer, both the heavy one and the Lightspeed. I love the Lightspeed trainer. I think that the Lightspeed trainer, do you have a Lightspeed one? Mm-hmm. Counterbalanced, little head on it, counterbalance, and It's so good for helping people feel release in their swing and getting that acceleration. It's good auditory feedback. It's counterbalance, so it releases the end really good. And then I think the orange whip, I won't say what I use. If I'll let you kind of describe, because I know you and I use it kind of similar way. So, okay, throwing it to you. Training aids do you use / endorse, Rob Fales?
Yeah, so like we said, we've got to differentiate between, is it a learning aid? So are you training to learn, or are you training to perform? There are very, very, very few actual performance training aids. 99% of the ones that you see out there are more for learning. And understanding what learning is, it's starting with, like you said, feedback, right? Are you getting information about the thing that you're doing, right? Is it giving you an awareness that you didn't have before? Mm-hmm. And so that's where the orange whip gives you an awareness of the club that is very, very, very difficult to get otherwise. And I use it pretty much every single day with, and I actually take a little toy airplane. It's got wings on it, so it's got kind of like a 3D sort of reference point, and actually tape it onto the shaft so golfers can feel the whip bending, but then they also get awareness for how it's moving around them kind of in 3D, which is can be a really cool thing. So I look at when the shaft bends, I look at how much it bends, and then I look at kind of where it bends and in what direction. So those would be the big three, kind of when it bends, how much it bends, and in what direction. And based off of the timing of when I see the whip bending in certain directions, I can start to make a really good educated guess about what they're doing to the golf club. And then relative to what we need it to do relative to the ball, then I can start to suggest options for trying to solve it. So it just, for me as a coach, the orange whip helps expedite the assessment process, and it can help narrow the options available that I perceive to lend to a golfer to try to get them to solve a problem. So I'm a big fan of the orange whip. Other aids are, again, just giving you information about what's going on. TrackMan, right? That's one we use every single day. Because it's not telling you what to do. It's just giving you information about what's going on. Things like, using your fingers for dispersions in full swing or for aim point. Like that would be actually a performance training aid,
yeah, true.
Right? So understanding what that is like there's a difference between the learning and the performing. So anything that is performance is typically done in context. So if it needs to be aiding your process for actually solving a problem when you're on the golf course, in competition or in the course of an actual round. So those are kind of my initial thoughts. So I guess we're endorsing TrackMan or Foresight or anything like that. That's tracking what the ball and the club are doing. We are endorsing anything that gives you heightened awareness of what the club is doing. And then for me, that's kind of where I stop, right? So like a lot of like training aids that encourage body movement in certain ways, I just haven't seen a ton of great ones when it comes to that. Like most things you need to do, you can do in the context of like step drills. If you have a kettlebell, right, you have some weight, throw around. Like I guess you could call that a learning aid, but it's more of just
that's really
it's not.
I wouldn't put that in that golf training. I think that's more like body training in a way. Like anything that's forcing your body to do things is not good. Like, so the complete opposite of what I think is helpful for learning would be those robots that swing the club for you and you're supposed to hold it, right?
Yeah, that's
a complete opposite of what golf learning should be. It should be, I always look at it this way. Okay, so this is the philosophy part, okay? I was searching for this a little while. Now I came back to it. Okay. So the foundation of how I teach, I believe, is that I'm trying to draw out of my student their best way of playing golf, right, or creating a skill. I am not trying to indoctrinate them or put into them my version or a training aids version of how they should swing, right? That's where I think the meaningful learning happens when you're creating that yourself as the player. Okay? It's longer lasting, it's more it's organic, it's built from inside of you. As opposed to saying, no, you have to, like, this is why I don't put Tiger Woods' swing up beside my students when I show them video of themselves. Right? I don't put anybody's swing up beside them when we look at video. Because I don't care about the other person's swing. I care about the person who's standing in front of me and the skill that we're trying to draw out of them, as opposed to indoctrinate them with some other version of thinking this is how you're supposed to do it. So that's the philosophy piece. So I was at the Teaching and Coaching Summit, last speaker who I was really excited to hear, someone I'd love to get on the pod because just phenomenal guy, really smart, great teacher. Jamie Mulligan, you know the name. He was PGA National Teacher of the Year last year. So if you're not familiar with Jamie Mulligan, he's kind of a low-key guy. He's out of California. I think Long Beach, California, Virginia Country Club, which is funny, right? It's because I work at the Country Club of Virginia, and he's in California, so go figure. But so he's Patrick Cantlay's coach, right, since birth. He's Nelly and Jessica Korda's coach, yeah, pretty good players. Paul Goidos. So he teaches only tour players. He's got a stable of tour players that he works with. And he's really, really, really sharp, great teacher. And he was asked, live question, what training aids do you use? He said, I use 2, TrackMan and alignment rods. That's it. So that was Jamie Mulligan. I'm like, yes, that's my guy right there. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Jamie, I know you're not listening, but anyway, big fan here. Eric Late. So anyway.
That's cool.
Next question. This is a good one. We can go a couple ways with this one, actually. So, do you have pre-round warm-up recommendations? Question. Do you have pre-round?
Yes.
The answer is yes. So next question. No, of course we do.
Yeah.
So you get to go first this time. Rob, what do you think is important for your students, maybe even and or yourself, in the pre-round warm-up?
So I'm going to answer this in the context of a tournament golfer. Okay. So you need to have a 5-minute warm-up. You need to have a 15-minute warm-up. You need to have a 30-minute warm-up. And then you need to have some version of a full warm-up, which would be 45 to an hour. Right? So every day's different, right? You're going to hit traffic. You're going to get to the golf course. When you don't expect
you're going to get arrested on your way to the golf course.
You're going to have a cop hanging from your car. Didn't think we were going to go there, but that's fantastic.
It could happen. I'm just saying it could happen. It's a possibility.
It could, right?
It's in the realm of possibility.
We didn't think it was in the range of possible outcomes, but apparently it is. You're going to go to a new facility that you don't know where stuff is, right? You're going to have all this different stuff. So you need to know, generally speaking, what are you going to do if you show up and it's essentially your tee time, right? If you have 5 minutes, what are you going to do? 15 minutes, what are you going to do? And so the big thing that I like to get players to understand is that you warm up to play, right? You do not play to warm up. Meaning, like, 2 things. Number one, like, just don't go out to the first tee and just say, I'm just going to play golf and warm up as I play. That's an awful idea. Terrible. The second thing is that probably in a warm up, you're not going to be hitting shots necessarily as much in the context of what you're going to do when you go play. For the most part, I think that can be dependent on the individual. If you found that, like, hey, I'm doing, I need to warm up my brain in the sense that, hey, I just need to go through the behaviors that I'm going to go do when I go play, then that's a great thing to do. But again, you're not really, I should say, you're not judging the outcome of your shots. You're really just swinging the golf club, establishing your baselines for, posture, rhythm, and you're getting your body ready to go play. That'd be the number one priority. So long-winded way of saying, if you only had 5 minutes, find a movement routine that you can do that lets you feel that you're stepping on the first tee and your body's as close to being ready to go as it can possibly get. All right. I would say the second priority would be likely just rhythm related, like establishing your rhythm and finding your rhythm and knowing what that is for the day, I think is number 2. Second would be, kind of 2, if that's priority number 2A. 2B would be calibrating speed of the greens, right? Do you know how far the ball's rolling today? And then how it's responding when it lands onto a green. So hitting some decent length pitch shots, if you can get out to 30 yards, I think that's great, just to see, off of a fairway what the firmness of the greens are doing. And then aside from that, like if you get your body ready to go, if you get some rhythm established, if you get the speed of the greens and kind of how firm they are, and if that's your first time being at the facility, maybe throwing a few balls in the rough, seeing how that's responding in the bunker and how that's responding. I mean, I wouldn't spend a ton of time there. Again, if it's in the context of your 5 or your 15 or maybe even your 30, that might be something that you do in your 45 to 60. Yeah. But as far as the actual warm-up goes, Sean Kennedy, he's the director of instruction at the Cliffs in, they're all around South Carolina, Western North Carolina. He has an orange whip protocol. And if you want to learn more about that, we might end up posting that to our, not to plug my other Substack, but I would, it's on Code Breakers Golf. I'm going to probably get him to maybe post that, to that space. And it's essentially kind of like from ankle up all the way out to your wrist joint, how you can use the orange whip to really kind of get your body ready to play for the day. So that's the one that I'm not going to share his secrets on this, but that's what I do. I do Sean's deal, which has been great.
Nice. So I'm going to answer this a couple ways. One is going to be mainly from I'm a country club golfer perspective, right? So
yeah,
it reminds me of it. This was a very some things happen and you notice it, and it becomes like a thing that sticks in your mind is an important thing. And I was teaching teaching outdoor on the range one day, and there wasn't, at the West Hampton where I used to teach, there wasn't a separate teaching area, right? So we just taught on the side of the range. Very busy range, and very busy after work. A lot of after work golf. And so I'm teaching on the side of the range, and this gentleman, I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday, it was probably 12 years ago. This gentleman rolls out onto the range tee. It caught my eye because he was pushing his cart up onto the range tee, which was just kind of funny to see. It was fine, but it was just, he's pushing the cart. And then he's got black socks on, so you could tell he didn't, he's coming right from work, changing in the bathroom or whatever, and forgot to change his socks. So he's got black, calf-high socks on with his golf shoes, and he's tucking his shirt in as he's walking to the bay right beside where I was teaching. And the first club he pulled out of his bag had to be a 5-iron. I think it was a 5-iron. It was mid to long iron, right? And he pulls it out, and he's doing one of these wiggling it over his head thing that you see. And then he swings and hits a terrible shot, like you would, right? And then he swings again, and then he slams his club into the ground, boom, so angry that he couldn't hit this 5-iron after 2 warm-up shots coming straight from work, right?
Oh my gosh.
And then I think he threw that in his bag, grabbed his driver, hit one, and pushed right to the first tee. And I was like, that is going to be I'm not that, I'm not a soothsayer, but I guess that's going to be a miserable round of golf. So point being, the warm-up for the I'm going to call level 1, level 2 probably type player. As you're getting down to the scratch player, it's a little bit different, but they're probably pretty organized and proficient in their warm-up. But if I'm a level 1, level 2 player, here's what we need to accomplish, in my opinion. Number 1, we got to build confidence. You got to build confidence early in your warm-up. Okay, so if I'm a 20 handicapper, it's really important for me to early on in my warm-ups just feel some solid shots and see the ball go up in the air. Okay, it just is. I just got to get the ball going forward and solid. So I remember reading in Tiger's book a while back that he said, the first 12, I'm going to make up a number because I don't remember exactly, 12 shots a day, 12 to 15, 10 to 15, whatever, are with a sand wedge, and I don't even aim. I don't aim. I don't judge the shot. I'm literally swinging with no intention just to get moving, okay? Then I'm going to take these little pitch shots. I'm going to get it moving. I'm going to just get the ball moving. And so I think what you're trying to do there is just give yourself at least 10 swings just to get moving, like just to get a little rhythm. Don't judge those early swings. It takes, I'm telling you, I tell every lesson when they come in, we laugh because I count the balls out. I've been doing this for 15 years. I count 10 or 12 balls out, pull them to the side and say, that's your warm-up. Don't judge these if they hadn't hit balls yet. And by the time you get to 10 or 12, you're getting a little rhythm. Your central nervous system is alive, and you're moving. So the CNS is a big deal, right? This is your this is your brain. This is your proprioception. This is your balance. This is your timing. And so what we're trying to do in warm-up, in my opinion, is try to get the central nervous system activated, ready, and focused to play golf. And you need a little time to do that, okay? For me, it's much more about the body. Now as a sort of level 3 player, for me, it's way more about my body than it is about sort of building confidence with the swing. Like, I don't have to hit a ball. I don't have to hit any balls before I tee off. And in fact, if you give me 15 minutes, I'm going to do all body work. And I'm going to, because I am 45 now, I'm going to do all body work. And then I'm going to go to the tee. And I will tell you that the guys that I play golf with, like when I do little day trips, there's a couple of groups that I'll go do a little day trips around the area with, or a couple day golf trips. They'll tell you that's what I do. If we get out of the car and we got 30 minutes till we're teeing off, I'm probably hitting 10 total balls. You know, I'm going to be I'm laying on the ground doing all kinds of stuff, which I'm not going to lay out here, but I got bands I'm working with, and I'm getting my body activated and ready to play, right? And so that I'm not going to detail in this. You know, I'm not going to go through every part of it, but let's just put it to you this way. There's parts of your body that you need to feel strong and active and ready and stable, right? And there's parts of your body that you need to feel loose and mobile. And so I'm trying to accomplish that as I go through my warm-up. And I think that getting people away from stretching pre-round is really big, right? You do not want to stretch when you're cold. It's never...
No, the static stretching pre-performance is
really bad. In fact, people keep telling me, I keep getting this push, Eric, you need to put this stretching cage thing in. And I keep telling them, I don't want people stretching before they're round. No. Okay? You need to do dynamic warm-ups, right? Motion-based, flow-based kind of warm-ups to get your body warm, right? And get the blood flowing into the places in your body that you need it. And so, to me, that type of thing where I can get my body fit, and I know there's people, if I say the term activate, they're going to go, that's not really, there's, you know, the dogmatic fitness people, right? I use the term activate because that's what it feels like to me. And everybody made fun of Tiger. Remember when he couldn't activate his glutes? Remember that? But I try to do that, right? Like I literally try to feel, and there's little movements that I'm doing to do that. I need to get my hips feeling that, and especially in the outer part of my hip and my glutes and my core. I got to really feel my core. I really got to feel my upper scapular area. So I do a lot of band work where I'm just pulling like this and trying to get that going, right? I definitely work some dynamic stuff with my rotators, and like I'm just doing all that before I go. I got to really work on my wrists and hands because I've had tennis elbow in both arms, so I got to make sure I'm doing that, getting that warmed up. So I promise you that's way more important for me than hitting any balls. But then again, I don't need the confidence to hit the ball. I'm a level 3 player, right? Mm-hmm. For a level 1 player, you've got to build the confidence and get your body ready. So if I'm a country club golfer, I've got to make sure that I'm giving myself enough time to get my entire sort of mind, body, and soul ready to play. I got to have confidence. I've got to be loose. I've got to be strong. I've got to be balanced. I've got to have timing. And it doesn't take hours, but it does take a little bit of time. So I think that was a long-winded answer, but the point being, it's important. To me, it's huge. And if you're going to go out and play, you've got to get your body ready to play. You've got to be there. So pre-round is huge. I think it's something that is very much underestimated by a lot of people that play the game. You know, they just want to hit. I want to go hit. You know, there's much more to it.
Yeah, they do the whole like oh, I'm just going to twist right, twist left. I'm going to do the back bend, right? I'm just going
touch
to
my toes.
do the club twirl in my forearms,
Yeah.
right? Might touch my toes. I might take 2 clubs and just swing them back and forth. All right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and it's like 3, maybe 1 minute of doing something that they just want to hit. And to me, it's like, no, I want to have my body ready before I hit the first shot. And that way I shouldn't be swinging to get warm. I should already be ready before I take my first swing.
Yes.
And you're going to go, Eric, but I work and I got to go, I got to. And I'm like, yeah, okay. It is what it is. I mean, if you're going to play your best golf, I'm giving you that answer. I just am. Okay? So if you can make more time, make more time. That if you really want to worry about your performance, that's the answer. So I think that was.
You have to warm up to play.
Yeah.
You cannot play
a
warm up.
You nailed it. We should make a T-shirt that says that. So nerdy. I guess this is our last question. So I guess I get to start with this one. Do you have players write out practice plans for each day of the week? I think this is a really interesting question. I think some people are very wired, like depending on how your brain is wired, right? To be like, okay, what's the plan? You know, like what do you want me to do? Tell me. Is it 8 swings with my right hand, 7 swings with my left hand, stand on my head, all this type of stuff? Here's what I think our role is. Okay, and I think in the golf intervention we talk about this a lot. Is I want my students to know how to practice. I think one of my big roles for me is to teach them how to practice in the right way. Then when you come and take a lesson and we're working on something, I'm going to, at the end of the lesson every time, say, here's what we're, let's summarize and talk about what it is that you're working on and some general practice ideas about how you can accomplish that. But I feel like for me, my role as the instructor is to help you learn that on your own, right? I don't know how much time you're going to have to practice that week. Like, that's going to be up to you, right? So you could say, hey, I'm going to practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's write a practice plan. Okay. It doesn't usually work out. In fact, I will tell you a true story. With one of our clinic groups, they wanted a practice plan. So we worked on it. We sent it, but then they didn't really end up doing it. And here's why. Because it wasn't like they were being lazy, but life gets in the way. And so if we say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, this is what you do, a lot of times it doesn't happen.
It's not going to happen.
And the problem then is this. It becomes demotivating because you feel like you didn't accomplish it. So my point is, if I'm going to tell my student, I need you to learn how to practice. I'm here to help you learn how to practice with good feedback in a way that's going to push you forward. So that when you do have time, you're making the best time of it. It'll feel accomplished.
Completely agree.
Accomplished. I'm going to help you learn how to make time for your skill practice. We're going to talk about creative ways to work on it if you don't have time to get to the golf course. Is there ways I can do it at home? Is there ways I can do some things in the office? Can I stand in front of mirrors? Can I film myself doing stuff? And then what do I do when I get to the golf course? It's not about me writing down step by step for the student. It's never about that. It's about me helping them learn how to learn better. That's my answer to that.
Yes.
What about you, Rob?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think of what I do in the exact same way. Is like, if you're going to spend 12 minutes on your golf game today, I need you to know how to accomplish something in that 12 minutes. And so it starts with knowing what it is you need to accomplish. So I will not, I won't say I won't talk about it, but I don't really go there unless the golfer already knows, do we need to reduce shots to green or do we need to reduce total putts? Right? As simple as that. Like, that's the most basic. Like, if you could only look at 2 stats, right? Just keep track of your shots to green, keep track of your total putts, know where you need to get to your next level, and at least it tells you where to look, right? And so if they know what they're trying to do and they have some way of tracking it performance-wise, then we're like, okay, now I can teach you how to create an assessment, which is really, really simple. It's never more than about 10 golf balls. That just tells you, hey, am I generally moving in the right direction? If I do this assessment over 3 to 4 sessions, is what I'm doing actually moving the needle in the right direction, right? I think assessments are really important, that you know how to structure one in a a representative way, right? An assessment is rarely going to be on, 5 to 8 balls on the driving range, right? It's usually going to be, I shouldn't say that. It's rarely going to be 5 to 8 balls, same club, same target on the driving range. It's usually going to be something a little bit more contextualized than that, especially in short game. Like, you're going to give yourself different lies, different slopes, different distances to hole, same thing with putting. So understanding how to assess first, assuming you know what it is that you're trying to do, right? And then if they know how to assess, it's okay, can I read the feedback from the assessment accurately, right? Do I know why the golf ball is not doing what I want it to do? So that's another big step. And then if they know that, right, then do they know what skills they need to develop, and then how to train the awareness of those skills, which is something that we've talked about in this podcast ad nauseum. So we're not going to get too deep into that there. But if I can teach them how to track the relevant stats, how to create an assessment, how to read feedback, and then how to shine a spotlight on the skill that they need to develop and train the awareness of that, then I don't know how much more there really is. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much it. Well, like, the assessment a lot of times is taking all the skill pieces and kind of chunking them together, whereas you can even do like assessments with individual portions of the skill. So you can make this as deep as you need it to get for like a level 3 golfer, or you can make it extremely basic of, okay, I'm going to hit 15 shots, alternating drive, iron shot, short game shot for a level 1 golfer, and we're just going to count how many are on the face, right? That's like a really simple assessment that is probably in line with a lot of our goals for a level 1 golfer. But that's kind of the order that I like to do, is like, okay, track stat, assess, feedback, awareness train.
And that's, I mean, please, if you just listen to Robbie go through that, please rewind it and listen to it again and make some notes, because this is how you practice. And so the reason I'm not going to say I want you to hit 15. Like, I see these on Instagram. I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah. Like, this is how a college team practices, and you see them like, first of all, we hit, 32 shots to these varying targets. I'm like, okay, that's good. I mean, I think that in some way, shape, or form, they've got time to fill up, right? So they're like filling their time up with practice. I'm a D1 athlete on scholarship. My coach is going to have me practice, right? So this is what he's going to tell me to do. Again, going back to the philosophy side, if I tell you hit X number of shots, X number of ways with X number of clubs, I don't even know if we're accomplishing anything in your practice. I have no idea. You should be able to get the feedback and then be able to veer off course. Like, maybe you go to the range one day. This has happened to me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit balls. I'm going to work on my irons. I'm going to hit some irons. So, like, that's going to be my focus. I'm going to pick some targets, hit some irons. And then I absolutely flush them. Like, I'm hitting 15 balls. They're just flush. Every shot intention's perfect. I'm hitting it great. To me, as someone who...
So why do we need to stay there?
Right. What am I going to do? I'm going to go putt or something. I'm going to be like, okay, my goal as a golfer is to be able to draw up a skill when I've got one chance at it, right? And so if I'm standing out here and I just did it, and then I did it again, and I did it again, I'm going to go do something else because I've got it. I feel like I've got it.
Exactly.
What am I doing? If I just... If I just stand there for an hour, am I ingraining more good habits? I don't really think learning works that way. I think that's an old school way of looking at it. I'm not like deepening the pathways of motor learning or something. I'm not. That's not how it works. And so I'm going to go say, okay, well, that was good. I hit 15. I still have 20 minutes left in my practice. Let me go do something else. And then I'm going to go do so I veer. Maybe I hit more drivers than I thought I was going to, or something. But again, if I were to, I almost think it's a disservice to my students to just write out practice plans like that. Does that make sense?
Agreed.
I want to give them an idea what to work on. I want to teach them how to practice, just like you said, just like you detailed wonderfully right there. And then off they go. And I think that's how you get better right there. That's the golf intervention answer.
There it is.
Right there. Write it down, people. Write it down. So that's our questions.
Write that down.
I mean, that was kind of fun, listener questions.
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
say, if you look on our episodes, no matter where you get our podcast, you're going to see highlighted the very first line before it goes into the show notes. There's a little thing that says, send us a text message. You can click that and send us a text message. It comes right to my phone. So if you've got questions, you can, because we love listener questions. We'd love to do more of these episodes. You can do it right there. You can watch our Instagram for, a listener question post. You can always email us at thegolfintervention@gmail.com. You can always do that if you have questions, if you want to reach out. Also, Rob Fales, great instructor. You can go see him for lessons. That's a good way to contact him too, on that email. So if you need Rob Fales for lessons, you can go see him. I'm in a private club. It's a little trickier to see me, but Robbie's busy, but he could probably fit you in. And
Yeah.
I guess that's all I want to say about that specific thing. As always, if you're interested, we do have something called a Substack. And if you don't know what that is, it's really just like a website that you go to that we put our content on, videos, articles. Robbie's written some incredible articles on there. So I hope you check that out. It's just thegolfintervention.substack, which is substack.com. There's an app. There's a website. The only thing you have to do to sign up is put your email in, and boom, you're on. We do have 2 levels. We have some free stuff, and we have the stuff that's subscription. So $10 a month is our subscription rate. If you want to support the Golf Intervention show, help keep us on the air, that'd be awesome. We would really appreciate it. And to those of you that have subscribed and have subscribed to the paid version, we cannot thank you enough. I just want to say that. You are saints in our book, and we're very, very happy that you've done that. So I guess do you want to introduce our next series, since we got a little hot second here? Something we've been planning a little bit, so we're going to plan more for sure. But we've had some questions about this, and I think we've got a couple ways we can go with it. So I'm excited to see how this rolls out. So you want to give them a kind of a brief overview of what you think we're going to be talking about on our next sort of series of episodes?
So I'm going to give a little teaser that likely our next guest is one of the top golf researchers in the world, which is extremely exciting. So keep your ears to the ground as far as that goes. That's really, really exciting for us, because we're both huge fans of him and his work. But then also our next series, which was requested actually multiple times by several listeners, is going to be on the quote-unquote mental game. We're going to talk about all the stuff that we typically talk about, but a lot deeper in terms of really how do we conceptualize what it is to play the game, what it is to improve at the game, why we play the game, and then how to think about performance in kind of a different light, thanks to some of the research that has been brought to the forefront in the last couple of years. So it should be a lot of fun.
I'm excited. I think I'll learn a lot during that series. I was thinking, really,
Me too.
yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Just having this moment where I was thinking, golf pros have always, like, one of the PGA things, like way back when, before you were born, probably, it was like all the hats that PGA pros wore. Like, that was the thing. It was like the hats. There was like a big marketing campaign around the hats. Because if you think about it, like when I got into the business, I was at 27 years old, a head pro at one of the top clubs in the country. Phenomenal, right? Like, just amazing opportunity. And what was my role? Well, I oversaw a golf operation. I oversaw a retail operation. I oversaw a cart fleet of, a bunch of golf carts, right? Which are all, it's a pretty big deal, right? I taught 30 plus lessons a week. I ran one of the largest junior golf programs in the country. I club fitted, right? So like you start naming, I was a mentor to, younger pros that worked for me. So like you wear all these hats, right? And then inside of teaching, think about all the hats there are. Club fitting, putting, part-time putting coach, as you call it, short game, mental game, the physical side of it, right? It's insane, the depth of stuff. And so for you and I, we've now coalesced around more of a focused coaching route. And the PGA has done that, where they're sort of, and I've got pros, all of our pros at the country club, we have 13. All of them teach, right? All of them club fit, but some don't do that much. They're very much focused on the operation, right? Oh, I forgot running tournaments. I had to be a rules expert to run tournaments. Like, these are the amazing things that your PGA professional does. Like, it's a phenomenal skill set, right? So now the PGA is separating this out into more. So now here we are focused on, I think the coaching has gone way up. Now, obviously the technology is better and the facilities are better, but now that we've narrowed in, I would have never been like, oh yeah, I'm a sports, I'm going to help with the sort of mental game. Like, to me, if people were like, Eric, I've got a mental, oh, well, why don't you go see a sports psychologist, right? Like, I think that was the way you did it, sort of had a team. And I think now it's about learning. It's about sharing. It's about guiding people in the right direction. And if they, obviously there's experts in the field, but just having that full skill set, it's an amazing thing, and I will say it's not easy. It takes a lot. If you're going to be really good at what you and I do, it takes a lot of study. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of desire. It takes a lot of curiosity. It takes a very low ego. And the thing that it kind of all wraps back into is when we have this biomechanist on, world famous, hopefully on. We think he's going to be on. He's agreed to it.
That's not joking, by the way. He's very famous.
I said I would love to do a show on basically convention, like,
yes, slashing
correct,
conventions.
like just being curious and willing to think about things and change the way you see things in an effort to grow. And I think that I have enjoyed that. I keep coming back to this at the end of the podcast each time. Like, I really enjoyed doing this because it's a new way. It feeds that energy for me. It's a little bit selfish in that way, I have to be honest. It feeds that for me in a tremendous way. And getting to learn from Mark Sweeting, getting to learn from Rob Fales, and getting to learn from this gentleman who'll be on. And it just like the cool conversations that I have, it's just changed everything for me. And so,
yeah.
Thank you, Rob Fales.
No,
thank you for being on this journey. But you, the listener, check us out on the Substack. Rate and review on your pod listener, whatever you call it, your app that you listen to podcasts on. Give us that 5-star review. Just do it right now, because we're hanging up. So, boop.
Just
all
while
you
we're
gotta
here,
do is scroll down, click 5-star, do a review that says, "Oh my gosh, the golf intervention changed my life."
Changed my life.
We would take it. All right, everybody. Any closing words, Rob?
No, right. I think we're all set.
Peace out. Have a great week, everybody. We'll be back next time.
Cheers.